Welcome to Families First Coronavirus Response Act webinar, otherwise referred to as FFCRA. Purpose of today's webinar is to understand where to get employee data for purposes of emergency paid leave, understand how emergency paid leave is paid out on payroll, understand the maximum amount of paid leave taken into account for the payroll tax credit, and understand where to go to get more information about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Brief explanation. The information presented by RSI in this presentation regarding the passage of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act is only for the purpose of helping you to understand how the benefits you select will be applied. This information is not legal advice and should not be relied on as such. With the speed at which the Families First Coronavirus Response Act passed, it has raised a lot of questions as to how to administer the act. These questions need to be addressed by the IRS and the Department of Labor for businesses to successfully comply with the law. RSI is diligently monitoring the progress in order to communicate the most up-to-date information so our clients can make the most informed decisions for their individual situations. This presentation is not going to cover the details of the act, only how the data entered while processing payroll will be processed. Some common questions. When does the Families First Coronavirus Response Act go into effect? The effective date is April 1st, 2020. Is there a maximum amount of hours that can be paid out for sick leave? Yes, 80 hours. Only paid sick leave for the first 80 hours will be taken into account to calculate the payroll tax credit. Is there a maximum amount of benefits that can be paid out each day or in total per employee? Yes. Paid sick leave compensation shall be capped for a job code emergency paid sick leave, reasons 1, 2, 3, which we'll go over in a second, at $511 per day and a total amount of $5,110 for each employee. Paid sick leave compensation shall be capped for job codes emergency paid sick leave, reasons 4, 5, 6 at $200 per day and a total paid amount of $2,000 for each employee. Paid leave under the FMLA shall be capped for job code FMLA paid at $200 per day and a total paid amount of $10,000 for each employee. This type of leave can be combined with emergency paid sick leave, reason 4, 5, 6, for a total capped amount of $12,000 per employee. That would be included in the payroll tax credit. Amounts above these thresholds will not be taken into account to calculate the payroll tax credit. Very important. Emergency paid leave employee data. There's a new report under the Financial Reports Payroll tab for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, Emergency Paid Leave. This report displays the employee's data from the date the report was generated back 6 months. It is important, very important, that you do not future date this report. This report will show employees' total hours over the past 6 months, average hours worked per week over the past 6 months, regular rate of pay over the past 6 months, 2/3 the regular rate of pay, and then the average hours per week, including PTO and sick leave. How to enter emergency paid leave. In an employee's profile, you will use the job code emergency paid sick leave, or EPSL, reason 1, 2, 3, when an employee uses emergency paid sick leave for the following reasons. Now these numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, these are directly from the law. They outline reasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6 in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and that's why we have these job code labels. But the emergency paid sick leave for reason 1, 2, 3, the employee is subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. The employee has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID-19. The employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis. Those three reasons you would enter their emergency paid sick leave in job code reason 123. And according to the FFCRA, leave for these reasons is compensated at the employee's regular rate of pay. We will use job code's emergency paid sick leave reason 456 when an employee uses emergency paid sick leave for the following reasons. The employee is caring for an individual who is subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19 or has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID-19. Remember, that's the employee caring for an individual. The employee is caring for a son or daughter of such employee if the school or place of care of the son or daughter has been closed, or the child care provider of such son or daughter is unavailable due to COVID-19 precautions. In this last one, the employee is experiencing any other substantially similar conditions specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of Labor. This is just all-encompassing in case something else comes out. I don't see this being used very much, but that's just in there as a catch-all. According to the FFCRA, leave for these reasons is compensated at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay. We will use job code FMLA paid when an employee uses the emergency paid leave requirement under FMLA due to the COVID-19 public health emergency when there is a need to care for their own son or daughter under 18 years of age if the school or place of care has been closed or the child care provider of such son or daughter is unavailable due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Under this type of leave, the first 10 days are unpaid, but an employee can use the emergency paid sick leave to be compensated during this time period. That would be reasons 4, 5, 6. According to the FFCRA, after the initial period of 10 days, FMLA paid leave is paid at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay for the number of hours the employee would normally be scheduled to work, or the average number of hours worked over the past 6 months, or entirety of employment if employed less than 6 months. And these are all if varying hours are scheduled each week. And you notice the reasons 4, 5, 6 and this paid leave under Family Medical Leave Act are paid at the same rate. Both of them are 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay. Tax credit under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. An employer is allowed a payroll tax credit to offset their federal 941 payments, which includes employers and employees' portion of Social Security and Medicare tax, and federal taxes withheld from your employees. Each quarter in an amount equal to 100% of the qualified emergency paid sick leave and paid leave under FMLA paid to employees. It's a lot of paid, isn't it? On each regularly scheduled payroll wherein paid leave is paid to employees, RSI will reduce your 941 payment by the amount of paid leave on that payroll in order to immediately realize the payroll tax credit. The total amount wages used to calculate the payroll tax credit for each employee shall not exceed, we already went over this, but we're going to do it again, $511 per day. Therefore, the max rate to enter for reason 123 is $63.85 an hour. Do not enter a rate higher than $63.85. This gives us a total of $5,110 in total wages taken into consideration for emergency paid sick leave, reason 123. The total amount of wages used to calculate the payroll tax credit for each employee shall not exceed $200 per day, or max rate to enter is $25. Once again, do not enter a rate higher than $25, and $2,000 in total for job code reason 456 under the emergency paid sick leave. The last one, the paid family medical leave, this is $200 per day as well. Once again, max rate to enter is $25. Do not enter a rate higher than $25 per hour for this job code, or this reason of paid leave, I should say, I apologize. The total paid out of $10,000 for the job code FMLA will be taken into consideration for the tax credit. And remember, when the paid family medical leave is combined with job code's emergency paid sick leave reason 456, the maximum paid out is $12,000. And all of that will be taken into consideration for the payroll tax credit. An employer is also allowed a payroll tax credit to offset their federal 941 payments each quarter for the amount of Medicare tax paid, which is 1.45% of applicable wages on the paid leave. Go over an example here in 1 second. RSI will also reduce the 941 payment by the amount of Medicare tax paid on the leave previously described to increase the amount of the realized payroll tax credit. For example, if you paid $1,000 of any type or types of paid leave, the federal 941 related to that payroll will be reduced by $1,014.50. That's $1,000 for the paid leave itself, and then $14.50 was the Medicare tax, 1.45% of $1,000. If there is not sufficient federal 941 tax due, the payroll tax credit is refundable, which means you will get the money back. Ooh. Gotta go back, went too far. All right, maybe I didn't go too far. Additional items to note. Employee posters. Each employer shall post and keep posted in a conspicuous place on the premises of the employer where notices to employees are customarily posted. A notice to be prepared or approved by the Secretary of Labor. The Secretary of Labor has produced that poster, and it can be found at that web address right there under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act posters section. Here's a little screenshot of it right there on that web page. Special rule regarding the payment of wages under the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act and Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act shall not be considered wages for Social Security and therefore are not taxable for Social Security. The amounts paid for emergency paid sick leave and emergency paid leave under FMLA will only show up in boxes 1 and 5 of Form W-2 and will not show up in box 3 of the Form W-2. Box 3 is Social Security wages. There's an alert that can be found on RSI's website with more details on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, as well as alerts for other federal legislation. There's a screenshot of where you can find that in education and training. Questions? Please contact your operations specialist for questions on how to enter the new payroll data. For questions on how each type of leave is handled, please reach out to RSI Compliance via support request. That is all for today's webinar. I hope you all have a great day.